So for today's demonstration, I'm not going to be using any live rounds in this. It's just not necessary for what I'm trying to convey. So shooting a side-by-side is in some ways very similar to shooting an over-under, and in other ways is very different. Uh, the main difference being your sight plane on an over-under is twice as wide. Uh, it's something that takes a little getting used to, nothing major. But what that results in is you typically, I at least think, you have more control over elevation than you do over your windage and tracking your target. Over-unders typically only have one bead as well. They don't have a mid-rib, which makes things a little different. Now, a fundamental of shotgun shooting is that you don't have sights. You have a front bead, sometimes a mid bead, and your eye. And your eye acts as the rear sight. That's why stock fitment is so crucial. So one of the first things that I look at when I'm using a shotgun is how it fits to my cheek. Now with side-by-side shotguns, you typically have a lower drop at the comb versus your sighting plane. That's because these are mostly designed as game guns for game shooting. They shoot more even pattern. As far as shot distribution, you're looking more 50-50 versus having a higher hit zone. That can all be adjusted the same as with any other shotgun by changing your stock. So that's the first thing. So what's nice about something like this is when I go to take a shot, I need to make sure that I'm lined up with my target the way I want to be. And when we're shotgunning, we have something called see bird, shoot bird, right? Very common in the trap community. So I'm looking at the lens of the camera right now, and I'm about to point this thing at the camera. You'll see my eye alignment will go from wherever my eye rests off of this cheek piece to the front dot to the target, right? It's that simple. Okay, you'll see a lot of trap shooters out there who do things that I find to be a little, I guess I would say, unnatural. You know, you get some of these guys out there, they get like all hunched over, and they do all this weird, crazy stuff. They get the gun way up on their cheek and end up doing just weird things. When you're shooting shotgun, you should be as natural as possible. So, you saw a minute ago, I looked at the target, I brought the gun right up to myself. Right? It's that simple. Okay? Nice and lined up. And if I go from a high ready, it's very similar. Right? It's all very similar. That's where this changes. Okay? When I look at where my cheek is, most over-under shooters, they prefer a high comb on their stock. That's because they're trying to line up with their cheekbone, right? Which is something that I'm not particularly a fan of. Okay, and when I line up my cheekbone with this particular gun, I can't see the front bead at all. Shooting English style, you tend to keep the comb of the gun lower on your face. And that typically means that you're really getting more of a chin weld than a cheek weld. Observe. Right? See, I'm coming up right about here on my face rather than up here. And that's what makes it a little different. People think that that makes the side-by-side and low comb guns tougher to shoot. I would argue just the opposite. It makes them easier to pick up quickly, and you don't have to be as crazy about holding the gun against your face. You know, if I'm up here and I'm trying to find a target, it's just right there. Right? That's all there is to it. It's just right there. Okay? I see a bird right now. If I'm tracking it, That's all there would be, right? I just barely touch my chin. I barely touch it. Versus with an over-under high comb gun, you get it right up in there in this pocket, and this is why you see so many people getting bruised cheeks when they're shooting trap and other clay pigeons. It's because those guns are putting all that pressure right there. They're holding too hard on the gun. Side-by-sides are dainty. They're meant for a more instinctual style of shooting, less calculated, which is why these are sort of considered like the sports car of shotguns. They point quickly, they shoot smoothly. Yeah, they don't give you the opportunity to be as calculated as you could with a different type of arrangement, but they still do the trick. So that's the first thing there. Side-by-sides, other than that, they're virtually the same as any other shotgun. I highly encourage anyone who's interested, take a look at TGS on YouTube. They're out of the UK. They have absolutely fantastic videos. Many of them side-by-side related. There's also TSC, the shooting channel. They have some pretty good videos too. I use this gun for trap. I also use it in the field. And I'm currently, since the last video that I used talking about this and patterning your gun, I have taken my scores from averaging about 35 out of 50 to 40 out of 50 when I'm shooting my trap league, which is, for me, a huge improvement. Considering that when I started, I was more like 30 out of 50. So, whatever you've got, practice with it, get good with it. If you're into shooting one of these, just be ready for the fact that people are going to look at you funny if you use these at a clay target range. While there's nothing inherently wrong with using one of these, it's not what most people are doing. So you may get some jokes and gripes there. You need to have a sense of humor about it. I certainly do, because I am at my club known as the side-by-side guy, amongst other things. You know, just take your time, train yourself, get good with what you've got, and have fun. Drop some questions down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks for tuning in.